So, welcome to the RecWired podcast. First one in a little while. I'm delighted to have Zack Tsirtos. Hopefully, I've got that pronunciation absolutely bang on.
You've done better than most.
Zack's here from our partner Bullhorn. So, for anyone who hasn't heard of Bullhorn, tell us what Bullhorn do, Zack.
Yeah, first and foremost, Andy, thanks for having me. For those for those of you who don't know Bullhorn, obviously Bullhorn is the market leading CRM and ATS recruitment agencies globally. We're about 1,500 staff across US, UK, Europe, and rest of the world. And there's about 10,000 agencies using Bullhorn to date. About 76% of the portfolio are small to medium-sized recruitment agencies.
Fantastic. So, that's the company. Tell us about yourself. How did you end up at Bullhorn?
Yeah, I started in recruitment fresh out of school. Worked a few years at a company called Montash and Uniform Education. And yeah, so did a short stint in IT recruitment for the contract market in Germany. And then obviously moved over to educational recruitment. So done some sort of high volume temp stuff. And then was contacted by a mutual connection that started at Bullhorn. And yeah, been here 4 years now as a sales rep, primarily on net new logo acquisition.
Fantastic. Recruitment's such a small world. So at Montash, the founder's Andy Larholt. So
Yes, indeed. And he's a
um,
Bullhorn customer
he's
as
a
well.
Bullhorn customer. And the other thing about Andy was the first recruitment consultant to give me a job to work on when I was at
Was he
Hudson
really?
Associates. Yeah.
No way.
I remember I'd just been on our induction. So it was a 4-day induction in Wimbledon. Then you go into the office on Friday morning, and it was like a scene out of Boiler Room. And
Nice.
I've basically found the one chair that was left, and I've sat down, and I was, Andy asked me, he goes, "What are you here for?" And I'm like, "Oh, right, I'm here because part of the Reading office." He goes, "Well, we haven't got one of those yet, but I've got a SQL Server Oracle DBA job at Barclays Capital. You can help me work that." I'm like, "Okay, I'll do that then."
Wicked.
So yeah, but he was super talented, very
Oh,
very young
yeah.
at the time as well. They used to
Yeah.
call him, I can't
Yeah.
repeat what they used to call him, but yeah, he was
He's
very
he's a
interesting
he's a
character.
he's
Small
yeah,
world. So we're
very
not here
small
to talk
world.
about that, the
No.
past. We're here to talk about Bullhorn's 15th annual grid report.
Indeed.
So tell me a bit about why did Bullhorn do the grid report?
I think in a nutshell, look, at the end of the day, we're not just a CRM and ATS provider, right? And we aim to be a trusted advisor and leader within the recruitment space. And how can you claim to be a leader in the recruitment space if you don't keep your finger on the pulse of the market and what's happening within the recruitment firms that we service? So we aim to do this annual report to ask recruitment firms the general sentiment across the market, what they're seeing, patterns, trends, obviously what technologies they're investing in and what's sort of spearheading their growth. So yeah, it's really just to keep a finger on the pulse of the recruitment industry so that we can better position ourselves as trusted advisors, really.
And normally these reports, you get a few, 20 people do it, like
Yeah,
1,500
yeah.
recruitment professionals.
It's a decent sample size, right? It's all well and good asking 50 to 100 people, but if you want accurate results and information and data that's actually usable and reliable, then you've got to have a decent sample size. And I guess being the market leader, having 10,000 recruitment agencies using Bullhorn, that allows us to sort of get that larger sample size where it wouldn't be necessarily possible with some of the smaller providers out there. So
Fantastic.
size and scale.
Look, I mean, I've been reading this. It came out earlier in the month, and I think what's good is there's some things there that you thought, some things you didn't quite think, and but it really does add data. I mean, I think recruitment's a lot on gut feel a lot of the time, but it's really added data to what we're seeing across both my
Yeah,
advisories and
and that,
also the network.
and that's absolutely why the grid report usually just exemplifies what the thoughts and feelings that were already on people's tongues. It's just giving you the data to back up what we kind of already know in our gut. So that's why it's a bit of an easy read. It's not too heavy, and it really does just give you the data to back up kind of what we already know as recruitment leaders. And industry specialists. So
Yeah, I mean, first up, economic outlook 2024 revenue is down again, but firms remain optimistic for 25, which spot on. Exactly.
yeah,
And
two
and
years on the
actually I
trot.
think doing the report in 2024 is really powerful because, if it had been earlier years where everyone's doing well, people are
Mm,
like, okay, we don't need to change much, all's good. I think when times are tougher, it's looking at those things that can make a difference.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's more and more important, or it's increasingly more important when there is a slower market to analyze these things in a little bit more detail. No one needs a weatherman to tell them that it's raining. When things are going good, you don't really learn that much anyway. You kind of just keep doing what you're doing. You're smashing it out of the park. When it is difficult, like it has been over the past couple of years, like it's no secret. These data points and getting more out of what you've already got and analyzing what we can do to move the needle, to stay afloat and keep ahead of the game. That's this is where it's the most important.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things actually was people looking at 2025, focusing on market share. And I think it's a real opportunity for firms, if you're going to say the economy is going to come back a bit, there might be more jobs, but actually, there's more jobs out there than any firm can handle. So the idea is to go and effectively be better than someone else.
I think so. There's a lot of ways that recruitment agencies are trying to position themselves effectively to survive in these economic conditions, like diversifying, offerings. So instead of just doing standard recruitment, how are we going to move into, I don't know, MSP or consulting or project management and tie that in, or become a little bit more niche and specialized within our industry. There's tons of ways that recruitment agencies are trying to do that to stay afloat, but it's not a case of just trying to stay afloat. It's also positioning themselves for the bounce back. Like the general sentiment on the market is that the second half of 2025 is going to be half decent, and I'm praying for that as well. So it's how do we set ourselves up for success? So when that bounce back does inevitably happen, whether it is in the latter part of this year or the beginning of next, we're going to reap the rewards of that. So yeah,
Okay, so we're going to talk about four key topics. Firstly, we're going to talk about automation driving recruiter productivity.
sure.
Secondly, the big one, AI. Again, actually some interesting facts and
There is.
stats.
Oh, there is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
placement
Fun.
redeployment, which again, I think with everyone looking at technology, I think a real look to the customer experience, and then fourth, diversification, and then we'll go into what people's top priorities are, top challenges. So, for people listening, we're going to do a whistle stop tour. We're going to do the headlines. The grid report is available. You just need to go online, download it, and the links will all be available. But anyone running a recruitment business or in a leadership position in recruitment business should be reading this report.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
number one, automation drives recruiter productivity and efficiency. Well, it would say that, wouldn't it? So, but I think what for me was the really interesting thing was that it feels like automation has stalled, and that's a headline as well. And I think maybe firms not investing, maybe firms hunkering down. What's
Yeah,
your thought?
I think that's a really good point. So when there are tougher market conditions, and naturally any business, not just recruitment firms, but recruitment firms in this case, that they'll cut back on spending, right, to reduce costs and increase profit margins. Now, there's a real divide. You get some businesses doing that and having that outlook, but on the flip side, you've then got the firms that will continue to spend because they realize that now more than ever we need to automate processes to get more out of what we've already got and move the needle, because those extra 5-10% are ever so more important. So yeah, you definitely have the groups of firms out there trying to cut back on spending, reducing spend on software and automation platforms and tools like that. So that's one camp, and then you've got the other camp that's very much just continuing on that path because they realize, if we get rid of this, we're even going to lose the 5%, 10%, 15% gains that we're getting out of those tools fundamentally. So yeah, it's an
Yeah,
interesting
and,
one.
and what's interesting when you look at the data, the firms that were the top performing. So the grid report does a mixture of things. It looks at how firms grow, how they've performed, and then says what
Mm,
have they done. So the firms, funny enough, that are in the advanced stage of digital transformation, doing
yeah,
automation,
look.
did the best.
It's not rocket science, right? I mean, look, we've seen that revenue growth has decreased, 2 years on the trot. But the firms that are adopting automation, are actually seeing revenue growth higher than the ones that are not adopting automation and AI. And yeah, again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see why that is. Um,
What was interesting for me was the top use case, searching for candidates to match to jobs.
yes.
As an automation. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. So that's a big strategy for our well, that's a big part of our AI strategy, right? We realized that, and I certainly remember it myself when I was working in recruitment all those years ago. Searching for candidates took up the majority of my time. It takes on average about 14 and a half, what was it, 14.6 hours a week for recruitment consultants to just search for candidates. That's the most time consuming part of the recruitment process. So if we can use AI and automation tools to cut that down, obviously you're going to increase your time to fill, your time to hire, hopefully reduce the headcount needed to do that as well, like resources and stuff like this. So yeah, in a nutshell, agencies using AI and automation to, streamline search. I think we're reducing time to search by about 4.5 hours a week.
I'd probably go one further. I'd like you can keep those people on and make more placements. I think the companies that will do really well will be able to grow headcount and make it easier for that headcount to do business.
100% it's a balancing act, right? It's, definitely hire new recruitment consultants, but ensure that they have the tools to work efficiently and effectively. You know what I mean? Make sure that when you do hire a recruitment consultant, you're getting the most, efficiency out of that individual. They're not wasting time on non-revenue generating activities. And that's a talk track that's existed since times began, but it's become ever and ever so more preeminent with the development of AI that can, you know, you know, sort of automate some of these processes, like anonymizing a CV or screening candidates, or using AI algorithms to create the Boolean on behalf of the recruitment consultants. They have to spend 15, 20 minutes writing it out themselves. So yeah, absolutely hire, but make sure that they have the tools in place to get the most out of each and every hire and maximize that.
I think the other thing is as well, also as well, when you're giving time back to people, it then becomes a management issue as well. That making
Mm,
sure that they, just don't use that to be doing other things and, foot off the gas. And that was the constant bugbear of my old boss, Russell Clements. He used to say we spent millions on these systems and our performance is
mm.
just the same, when we're on the fax machine and the easel, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just it's a case of, okay, we're giving you this time back, but then how are we driving that activity to better use that time elsewhere? And that comes from management, that comes from process, and that's a whole nother conversation in its entirety. So
Yeah, and look, the automation stuff, and we'll move on from it. But I mean, I know what you guys do with the automation groups. It's really good to see
yeah,
how companies that don't compete against each other share ideas on things you can automate, can make it more efficient. And there's some really good case studies. So if anyone is interested in automation, your group's very, very good at explaining what it is, the concept of it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I was at a recruitment group sort of event yesterday, and it's very much that. It's just keeping your finger on the pulse, about reading the grid reports, jumping on automation focus groups to see what other customers are doing with automation and AI. Anything that you can do in that respect to keep your finger on the pulse to see what other agencies are doing successfully or not so successfully, that's how you're going to stay ahead of the curve. And again, in a time like now where the market is down, job requisitions are down, net new logo acquisition is imperative. Like, you have to be keeping your finger on the pulse and seeing how you can move that needle.
So moving on to AI. AI will be a game changer for recruitment and drive revenue for day one. Yeah.
That's all I heard at the Rec Expo.
And
That's all I
actually,
heard.
I think a lot of I don't know whether it came through in the automation. I think people are holding off on automation. One because I think they think AI might effectively overtake it. I see
Yeah,
I see enough of a difference to think that's quite a dangerous strategy to leave your automation and hope that,
extremely.
AI does that.
I think so as well. I mean, w certainly at Bullhorn, and I think pretty much every software vendor out there in the RecTech space is in agreement that look, you have to get your CRM and your data in place and your automation strategy in place, which kind of coincides with that before you're adopting AI tools. Because if you've got like with Bullhorn's LLM, we created our own LLM that learns off of your own recruitment specific data. You have to have your data and CRM on point and your automation strategy on point before you're starting to train your LLM on your own data. So I'd say any business that's holding off on automation to wait for AI, you need to get that right first before you're looking at any AI tools, whether that be just your standard chat GTPs, but especially when you're using an AI tool that's plugged straight into your CRM and ATS.
There's a really interesting comment on there as well, and you've quoted it. AI, I think, is just going to go at warp speed now. So if you've not started, good luck at catching up.
Yeah.
So yes and no. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
no, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Being an early adopter is really important. It's a really good way to get ahead of the curve and get to candidates and clients before other agencies. Because let's face it, like this is a very competitive market. There's tons of recruitment agencies probably servicing the same niche as you. So yeah, being an early adopter, keeping your finger on the pulse, trying new things and new tools, absolutely. Do I think, if you haven't adopted AI, it's too late for your business? Absolutely not. This is very early days. Definitely get ahead of the curve, but never think it's too late. There's always time to adopt AI to become more strategic and remain competitive. So yeah, take that with a pinch of salt, I would say. Still positive sentiments.
definitely. And yeah, what's interesting again, it comes down to they think what AI tools will improve search and match. So that classic feels like the stuff that is the is finding jobs, finding candidates for jobs is the massive thing. And interestingly as well, people who have started to use AI and been early adopters again when it's come when
Mm.
where so people say what they've done, and then they compare it to the results, and 50% more likely to be getting faster response times, and just better firms. All the stats are in here, but
Search,
such a
search and
different.
match. Search and match is definitely the biggest one that we're seeing in the grid report. And when we're asking customers, as I said before, it's the most cumbersome part of the recruitment process. So figuring out ways to streamline that process is gonna see the best returns. And again, just to go back to my previous statements, that is what's going to get you to the candidate and client before other agencies who are servicing the same niche. So and maybe oversharing here, that I imagine it's that data that pretty much drove our M&A strategy around acquiring text kernel and Sourcebreaker, now slowly and surely becoming with the developments, becoming Bullhorn AI search and match. So yeah, it's a big focus for us, and it's a big focus for loads of agencies out there. How can we get to candidates quicker? How can we reduce our time to hire by doing that?
So the other thing is but as well, I mean, if people are adopting AI, the things here that were quite of interest were the biggest issue is around data. And you
Yeah,
touched on it earlier, but
yeah.
having good quality data is your superpower.
Absolutely that. Absolutely that. I mean, if you're training an LLM on poor data, on bad data, dead data, or maybe data on industries that you no longer service, maybe you've pivoted as a recruitment agency, you know, the output is only as good as the input. It's the same with the CRM, it's the same with an AI tool and an automation tool. So using automation to clean up your database and getting that data cleanse and automation strategy in place before you adopt AI tools, that is the most important thing to do. Most important.
I think the other thing, the next biggest obstacle apparently is the cost of AI tools. And when I look at AI tools, they are
Mm,
expensive, and I think we've got quite used to cheap technology. So I think this is, and I actually think the paradox needs to shift, right? You've I think if you're comparing AI tech to normal tech, then absolutely it is expensive. I think if you're comparing AI tech to a human doing the same job,
that's
it's relatively cheap.
100%.
So the big shift I think people have got to get over is the fact that you're not comparing it to other tech, you're comparing it to,
Yeah, it's the value that you're going to see from that, right? It's the returns. It's the how are we reducing our time to fill? How are we getting to candidates and beating out other competitors as a result of this AI tool? Is again, as a no surprise. As a software sales guy, I'm looking at what is the value this tool is bringing in comparison to the cost, or rather than the cost. So yeah, just understanding how it can streamline the process and drive value in placements is, yeah, definitely the focus when you're looking at that instead of cost.
the last paragraph in the section is really good as well. Yeah, and I think it probably reflects what we see in the groups, that AI must enhance, not replace the human aspect of
Yeah,
recruitment.
100%.
And actually, I think, yeah, maybe that's coming from a point of view of, everyone as a founder realizes they potentially could be replaced if, the logical conclusion of where this goes. But I do feel that in a world where there's a lot of automation, there's a lot of, there's a lot more noise, how you stand out as an individual, how you stand out as an organization, how you stand is going to be so, so important. And as you say, you're training agents, you're training assistants on you.
On your own data. So that's
Yeah.
why it's bespoke to you and your data, right? So you're still creating your secret sauce with the AI tools that you're using, as long as it's being trained on the data that you've got in your single source of truth, your CRM and ATS. And what you've got to remember is, again, it's the same as automation. It's not there to replace the recruiter at all. It's there to give the recruiter more time back so that they can focus on being human and building those strong relationships, which is what recruitment essentially is. If we can get an AI tool to start anonymizing the CV, or doing the prelim screening, or summarizing a candidate's profile ready to pitch to a client, they have more time back to hopefully build a really strong relationship with that candidate and provide a better candidate experience. So all you're doing is giving them more time back to be more human, and yeah, essentially increase and enhance that human touch, which is ever so important.
Then we come on to topic three: faster, more accurate placement and redeployment delights talent and drives revenue gains. Yeah, this is one of those that you actually, when you're thinking about tech, when you're talking about tech, you're talking about. It's actually nice to, and this is probably, we talk these other two things, and they've typically been more around for the agency. Actually, this is really
100%.
interesting one that, this is what the customers want.
Yeah,
It was really interesting when we surveyed contractors. The biggest, I guess, regret they had about agencies was that once they finish the contract, they have to go off and find another one, and that. So
exactly that.
redeployment and, certainty of deployment is such a big thing certainly for contractors.
Yeah, absolutely. And selfishly, as a provider of the recruitment industry and recruitment agencies themselves, they're thinking about reducing the time to hire and speed of placement and that sort of things. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's exactly what the Grid report sort of has found is candidates, especially in the contract market, they want to be redeployed quickly. Like for example, my even my cousin's a contractor, is a contract project manager. And when that 12-month renewal comes around, he's really stressed out about whether he's going to get extended or whether he's going to get placed, into another contract. And this is what candidates expect, and this is what candidates want. It's not just about us driving a quicker placement as well. So it benefits both parties there. Um,
I feel
and that's
bad
really
now for what
important.
I'm about to say, but we used to joke, if you're looking for a contract project manager, where do you find them? In
Yeah.
B&Q generally. So,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely right. Those guys, they work super long projects, but
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
can be looking for the right thing for, quite a
For
while.
a while, and it's a stressful thing. So they want to be redeployed and effectively, and they want a more, again, this is what candidates expect and want. They want a more seamless and fast paced recruitment process because they want to be placed more quickly,
Yeah.
and they just want a more overall streamlined process. I mean, better, more efficient touch points, and that's it. So it's not just about improving it for the recruitment agency and improving the placement times. It's again just servicing the candidate better as well. And again, that entails better referrals, better better references on your LinkedIn profile, stuff like that as well. That is also really important. That comes off the back of providing a really good service. So
Yeah, and I think, the one of the things that firms often fail to do is look at that candidate experience. So when you're applying for a job, what is that like? How does it feel? Was the experience good? And it it's such I remember doing it once thinking, geez, I don't think I'd actually, I wouldn't have applied for my own job. It took that long to do, and obviously been changed now. But really understanding, it's all very well you having your processes, but what are you
yeah,
putting other people through?
and
And
we've all been on
actually,
the flip side of that.
firms that delight talent throughout the cycle are twice as likely to see higher revenue.
Yeah, do the
Twice.
right thing. Do the right thing, and provide a better talent and candidate experience, and you will see revenue gains.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, 100%. So, what I really liked and what's really interesting is the next topic, which is number four: diversification proved critical to preserving margins. So, your cousin will
Yeah.
be happy because project management consulting topped the
Top of the
list of,
list.
of improving business lines, executive coaching,
Exactly
outsourcing.
that.
So yeah, that was quite interesting for me as well. So things that have been quite traditional. People are go. It says to me, agencies are going up the food chain. So
Yeah, yeah,
probably where
definitely.
they're seeing disruption, commoditization, maybe technology automation. They're almost everyone's moving to higher ground.
100% because they're realizing that this is a really competitive market. There's more and more recruitment agencies out there, and market conditions are bad, so there are lower job requisitions. So they're thinking, well, how can we diversify and find new revenue streams here? So that is why they're moving further and further up the chain. How can we become, an MSP? How can we provide project management and consultancy services? How can we drill down into a specific area within our niche, and even more niche part of our industry, all of these things to differentiate their service and find different revenue streams because job requisitions are low and market conditions are tough and it's ever more competitive. So yeah, definitely.
And actually, the sort of the summary points are really interesting as well, and we see this across our group. So, priority for 2025 is attracting. For 25% of the firms, their top priority was attracting new clients, and it's probably been the same for the
Shock
last
horror,
two
right?
years.
Shock horror in slow markets. That is typically what we see as a trend. Right, we net new logo acquisition. How do we onboard new clients so that we can increase our job requisitions? Because job requisitions are low. That follows suit in every downturn. So yeah, this is no surprise that this is top of the list in
Yeah,
back end of 2024 and beginning of 2025.
and it didn't matter what region you're in, what sector you're in. This was the number
Yeah.
one.
I think we're seeing a worldwide downturn anyway across US, UK, Europe. I don't think anyone can hide from it. So yeah, no, again, no surprise that we're seeing that cross industries, cross verticals, cross markets. It's expected, right?
Yeah, and the top challenges is interesting as well. I mean, this reads like the perfect storm. I mean, hopefully people don't read this and lose enthusiasm, but joint top challenges, reduction in job requisitions from clients, and then tight talent pools joint top. So you've basically got not enough jobs, not enough people to
And not
fill
enough
them.
candidates.
Yeah,
Exactly. And it might be just because candidates are trying to stay put because there is a ton of uncertainty out there. And at the same time, businesses don't want to spend and they're cutting headcount and they're not hiring. So that is an unprecedented sort of change. Like, when I was in recruitment, it was always, it's a very candidate short market or it's a very job short market, one or the other, and it would seesaw. Right now, we're seeing both. And it's just like, well, yeah, we're down from both ends. But look, it's not all doom and gloom. Like we've seen this before, we've seen this again. There are going to be downturns. It's cyclical, and look, you've got to ride the wave. That's business. That's recruitment at the end of the day. And guess what? This too shall pass. And soon come the bounce back. Hopefully at the back end of this year, beginning of next.
If you were starting or running a recruitment company or recruitment consultant right now, what would you do differently? You've done the job, but you also have seen for the last few years a number of firms do the job probably in a different way. What would you do different?
I I'd be using better tools. Obviously, I mean, I know I'm biased because I'm coming at it from a software sort of angle now. But I was at Montage when they were using another CRM before they moved on to Bullhorn, and I can see the impact that technology does have, on time and efficiency from a recruiter standpoint. I used to spend hours and hours and hours searching for candidates, and any way that we can streamline that process and give our recruiters better tools to be more efficient and give them more time back to focus on that human touch. Yeah, I'll definitely focus on that. Um, just tons of things. Like even just using automation to tap into the data sets that we've got. If you've got 100,000 candidates in your database, no matter how many people are, even if I go and hire 15 recruitment consultants, there's no way that we're going to be able to service that many candidates. So quickly implementing an automation strategy to make sure that we're tapping into every talent pool that we've got there and efficiently, and we can see who's engaging, how many times they're engaging, and do more with the data that we actually have in the database, whether that be on the client side, whether that be on a candidate side. So that'd be a massive driver for me if I was to, jump ship tomorrow and start a recruitment agency. Yeah, right tools in place, very very tight process. Yeah, and obviously focusing on a niche, right? Focusing on one specific niche. I like how recruitment agencies are diversified as well. Maybe doing a bit of consultancy and project management and that sort of thing, so that we're more deeply embedded into the customers, and so that we're invaluable. We're not just sending over CVs and that sort of things. I think that's really, really, really important to becoming a sticky recruitment agency. So yeah, definitely things that I would focus on. Now having worked software side, if I was to ever go back into the industry.
So obviously this report focuses on 24. What have you seen so far in 25?
I mean, I, we're not out of the woods yet. Absolutely, it's still slow out there. Like there's no denying that. At the recruitment agency expo, we saw that job requisitions are still down, placements are still down, but there are some. I would say there are some evidence of grassroots showing. I think at the back end of this year, we'll start to
Hmm.
see us coming out of this tight period, and I think it is a sign of things to come. So yeah, we're not out of the woods, but we are seeing grassroots show. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We just need to be patient and ride the wave. That's what I would say.
No, I agree. I think it certainly feels a lot better than last year. There's a lot more confidence. I think the other thing that people, there's less requisitions, but also a lot of people left the industry, both companies and people as well. So there's still
Yeah,
a lot to go at. Weirdly, we all thought the elections would give economic certainty.
yeah, and that didn't go the way we
Who,
planned,
who
obviously.
knew? So,
Yeah,
but also with uncertainty comes opportunity as well. So,
yeah,
I
exactly.
think I think recruitment agencies have always been good at navigating change.
Yeah,
I once jokingly said like it's like one long Game of Thrones. Winter's been coming for like 30 odd years.
exactly
It
that.
was the internet was going to kill it, LinkedIn was going to kill it, the email was going to kill, hasn't.
Yeah,
Job
yeah,
boards were going to get,
absolutely.
AI, and it won't. People
It's all
will find, ways to use it. And every time one of those challenges happened, they've used it to enhance what they do. Not, it's not been a threat.
it's always doomsday, right? And then doomsday never comes, and there's a new thing to worry about, and that's just human nature, right? We're warriors. We want to keep ahead of the curve, and we want to think about every possible risk. And I think that's just, as I say, human nature, right? And that translates to business. That translates to business. But it's like with Goggins. He's what is it? Well, or was it Goggins or someone else? Right, the elections didn't create the stability that we were hoping for, but good. We've got more time to prepare, right? We've got more time to prepare for the bounce back. So look at it as a gift. It might give you another 3 to 6 to 12 months to prepare for when the market bounces back. So
Hmm.
yeah, get positioning yourself, get your process tight, get making the most out of every hire that you've got, and then when that bounce back does come, you will reap the rewards of it. So yeah. trying to spin a negative to a positive.
No, look, I think A, it's better, but you're right. Good recruitment companies don't need a great market. They just need a good, just a good market. And I think probably, 2, 3 years ago, 3 years ago, we jokingly say it on the group, people were hiring administrators with LinkedIn accounts and they were billing 200K. Those days are
Yeah,
long gone. But
exactly.
but good firms with good processes, good systems, good people, should definitely be looking good. And
They'll
the other, the
prosper.
other the other thing I challenge my advisories on is with these tools as well is really to simplify where possible as well. I watch a lot of people get caught up in a lot of stuff, but still the fundamentals is find a candidate, find a
Yes.
job, put them together, make a placement. So
Yeah. Try and keep it simple.
keep it
Don't
simple.
get lost. Don't get lost in the hype. Keep your finger on the pulse and make sure you're adopting the right things, but also don't get so worked up in that you forget the basics and the simples, which is, add the human touch, find good candidates and connect them with your clients.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Zach. We've done it as a bit of a whistle stop of the grid report. There'll be links to the grid report. Everyone should, if you're interested in, you might just take one or two things for it, change one or two things in your business, and I think, you know, uh, definitely worth a deep dive. Zach, thanks
Definitely.
so much. If
No, thanks
people
for having
do
me.
want to reach out to you, connect to you on LinkedIn,
Always open to a chat. If that's just general advice, just want to pick my brains about anything. It doesn't just have to be about Bullhorn specifically. Yeah, just connect with me on LinkedIn. My phone number, email address is there. Whatever works best for you.
fantastic. Cheers, Zach. Catch up soon.
Cheers.